Hello and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about Mega Man X4. That's, if I did this right, probably already playing over here. This review is going to be kind of I guess a few things to say up front is that it's going to kind of assume you probably played, Mega Man X 1 through 3 probably, or know something about them. So I'm assuming you know some of the basics there. And, also, just to realize that I'm playing this on the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, which is actually the version here is based on the PlayStation version. So I think that's all I really need to get out of the way in the front here. Also, there's a written review. I'll link that in the description. And I believe there might be stream highlights of my first attempt playing the game as well. I'll probably link that below for you to check out if you want to. Since it's already just the footage is up here, we can just start. Again, I will also quick plug, do you like the footage on the side, or do you want me to go back to doing full screen when I'm talking in the middle of this? Because either way, I have to stand out here and do this, but I don't know if you want to sit here and watch me do this. Alright, so, Mega Man X4, one of the things I guess you'll notice right away is that it does have animated cutscenes that it will play that are actually fully voice acted as well, because it was put out on disc-based media. So you'll see some of this in the beginning here, a little intro movie thing. You can start your game and you select your characters. You can play as either X or Zero. The main plot here is just that basically, see if I can get this right here for the story bit. The main plot is kind of like, Sigma basically approaches the leader of this army of Reploids called the Repliforce, led by the general, and he approaches him and is like, "Oh, we should get rid of the Maverick Hunters because they're just doing whatever the humans want them to do, and you had the power to stop them." And I mean, he's like, "No, I don't want to do that." So Sigma's mad about that, but then he sets up this kind of thing where I guess these Mavericks end up attacking, like destroying this city. And they believe that Repliforce is behind it. They go down there, and unfortunately, there's this misunderstanding where the Colonel from Repliforce shows up there, to investigate as well. And it's like, "Oh, is this you? Did you do it?" It's like, "No, I didn't do it." And they're like, "Well, you should come back to the Maverick Hunter HQ with us." And he was like, "No, I'm not going to do that. We're innocent. I don't know. I won't do that." And then it's like, if you don't, then you're going to get labeled as Mavericks. And I'm like, all right, that's your call. And because of that, that kind of spurs on this thing where they're like, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and, like, build a utopia. We're going to leave all these humans behind and the Maverick Hunters and all that. And we're just going to go off and make our own place where only Reploids live. But obviously they're still being hunted down now because they believe they're attacking people or whatever, so there's the whole thing where, like, the Maverick Hunters are ordered to go and try and stop Repliforce from doing whatever it is they're doing because they think it's going to be, like, destroying the Earth. Basically, it's that. So you can play as X or Zero, like I said. So for starters, let's talk about X's campaign. So when you're playing as X, he plays pretty similarly to the way he does in previous games. You do similar things, going through stages, beating bosses, getting their weapons. When you're going through the stages, you can get the heart tanks to increase your health. You get the different tanks, like sub-tanks, weapon tanks. You can get this EX tank that gives you more lives and you get a game over. Also, it does a thing where if you get this, so basically whenever you start a stage fresh, you'll start with more lives in the beginning. And also, there's a thing where each stage is split up into 2 sections. So, like, if you get a game over when you're in the second section of the stage, or, like, on the boss, if you hit continue, you will start at the beginning of the second section rather than going to the first one, all the way to the beginning like you would from the stage select screen. So there's that. Also, with your upgrades, you do get the same, like, armor upgrades again, but they do a bit of different things now as well. So, like, for example, the leg upgrade does give you the ability to do, like, an air dash, but now it no longer gives you the ability to dash upwards. Instead, you have this, like, hover you can do. If you stay in place, you'll hover longer, but if you move around with it, you'll hover, like, for a shorter amount of time. But yeah, it's just a hovering thing instead. If you get the head upgrade, it'll make it so that your special weapons don't use any of their energy. You can just use them infinitely. And then if you get the arm upgrade, there's actually 2 different arm upgrades you can get. Oh, the body upgrade. Quick mention that. The body upgrade gives you the Giga attack again, but this time it is the Nova Strike, which is like the thing you dash forward. That mostly refills by getting, hurt. So there's that trade-off with that. But the arm upgrade, so there's 2 different ones you can get. Now, either arm upgrade allows you to charge your special weapons. And using the charged special weapon is the only way you'll deplete weapon ammunition, that energy meter. But depending on which arm upgrade you pick, you can choose your charged shot for your main weapon, for your X-Buster. You can either make it so that you can charge and store like 4 shots, or you'll have, it takes a little bit longer to charge, but you can shoot one big shot that also leaves behind, it does more damage and leaves behind this plasma, that like little plasma ball that continuously does damage after it after it goes, or after for the first thing that it hits. So those are kind of like the main like differences with those. Then after you beat all of the bosses, then you go to this final section of I guess I'll mention quick, there are still ride armors in some of these levels as well. But yeah, so you beat all the bosses and you go into this final section where you're doing all these linear stages you go through, and then ultimately, surprise, surprise, you fight Sigma at the end and try to beat him, to stop him from doing his stuff. That's kind of the idea. I don't want to give away too many spoilers or other things going on there. You'll find it out when you play. As for Zero, he plays a bit differently. He does actually have his own campaign. He's not like a gimmick this time, and he's not like swappable or anything. You have to play through the whole campaign as either one of these characters, and Zero gets his own cutscenes and things happening, so you get a bit more backstory and lore going on with the story and the plot stuff. Zero plays with his saber, so he has if you like a 1-2-3 strike thing, he can jump and attack, he can slice when he's on walls. If you try to attack when you're dashing, it'll cancel it, which I guess is part of a move that I never really mastered, a technique called I think it's just called dash canceling, where it's if you attack and then try to dash, it'll cancel part of the animation. Then you can attack again right away, so if you can spam that in the right timing, you can attack really quickly to do lots of damage. That's an advanced technique you can learn how to do. I don't know if they expected you to do that, but you can do that. People online will mention that. And the thing with Zero is that he does play the same stages, he does fight the same bosses, but the way it goes is a bit different, because he can still get the heart containers, but he has no armor. He can get the tanks and stuff too, but he get no armor upgrades. So, he's also a bit of a bigger hitbox and stuff, but I feel like he's a bit faster and his attacks do more damage. So there's a bit of a trade-off there, and of course he's all close range, so he does have to get closer to enemies in order to actually hit them, even though he can hit them from more angles as well, due to the way the nature of his saber slashing around. And the thing is, he gets different abilities from beating bosses. So, instead of getting weapons that use up any weapon meter, he gets abilities that usually have some kind of button input. Like, if you're in the air, do this, or on the ground, do this. Do those inputs, and you can do those abilities. Only one of them, which is his Giga attack thing, requires any kind of, weapon meter to speak of. Everything else is just things you do, and they'll be most of them are part, attack and part, movement, so you can move around faster and things. So it works with boss weaknesses as well as maneuvering yourself as well. So it's more aggressive combat things. A lot of times it's more about being gotta be close to the enemies. You gotta be when to attack, when to escape, and you have more ability to get up close and get away as well. It's kind of the trade-off idea here. And you also get different unique dialogue and stuff with each of the bosses as well before you fight them. And you also get a few abilities, you can end up getting a saber that will destroy projectiles. You can get a double jump, and you also get the air dash as well. So you do end up getting these other abilities. It just depends on, beating certain bosses gives you the different things. So some of them give you different things than you'd expect, probably, I guess. You don't get weapons per se. And then at the end, you have your own. You play through these the same end sequence of bosses or whatever, and end not bosses, but the end sequence of final level things, the linear part there, and once again fight Sigma. And for the most part, I think this is all really good. I think that there's a lot of stuff here in Mega Man X4 that's really, really good. The two campaigns, for one thing, is already really awesome because, like, between the two, they have a lot of cool, like, story things. Like, in general, I think it's cool that they're trying to have more plot stuff and more things happening. It feels like they're kind of building up more of the story and the lore around here rather than just being like, I don't know, let's go get the guy. Like, it feels like they're at least trying with this, and that's appreciated. That's cool. The other thing is that, like, I do feel like even though they're playing the same levels, the same stages, the same bosses and things, they are different enough where the two campaigns do feel like they are both worth playing. I feel like Zero's campaign is definitely harder because you do have to get closer to bosses who have more ability to harm you and are going to move faster. You have to be a lot better to do well as Zero probably than you do as X for the most part. And if you aren't good enough, there's not a lot you can do to work around that. So I think Zero's more of like a bit of a hard mode also. But it's cool that you get to play as him just as a whole thing, and he's not just like a novelty, like you can play as him and don't die or something, that's cool. That's really nice. I also noticed like the animations are good, the art is more detailed here because it is a newer system than the Super Nintendo. And the music is more detailed as well, so there's a lot more technical power behind this, but they still stayed to the 2D thing, so like they were able to make it look like a really nice 2D game rather than looking like a early 3D game. So a lot of people will probably appreciate that as well. And yeah, I thought it was awesome. Like the upgrades, I think all of the armor upgrades now are awesome when you're X. Being able to use all my weapons like infinitely was crazy. I was like, that's awesome. Now I feel like I can actually use these. The hover thing was actually really interesting and helpful for certain like bosses and enemies and like situations where like you just need to sit in the air and wait it for a second. I did think that was cool. And like I do like that. Also, the really awesome charge shot was cool. I like that. I think it was really cool. Also, like they definitely focused on like making the levels thematically fit together with their bosses and things like. Oh, here's like, like for example, Frost Walrus, you go there and it's that ice thing, right? So you're in a level and there's like snow and snowstorms, there's like these slippery ice slopes you have to go around, and there's like, this, atmospheric, like, the background music is like this weird chilling atmospheric kind of ambience going on. So like they definitely like went in with like some of the theming on here to try and make it more than just like here's the boss or it's like the stage. It's like it's also the hazards, the music, that everything kind of goes together more thematic cohesion, and I think that's good. And I appreciate that aspect, even if it's like I appreciate it a lot, I guess. There is a lot to definitely enjoy about this game because it is ultimately very fun, and most of the bosses are very fair. Once you get good at them, you learn the patterns, you're able to beat most of them without necessarily having their weakness, which is good. You don't have to, like, you're not forced into, like, I have to get, the one person I can beat and then work my way around the weakness wheel. But, as far as downsides to this, some of that's like, I'm not a big fan of the music. I like X's intro stage theme, but the rest of it is kind of like whatever to me. It's not as good as the cool Super Nintendo kind of rock sounding tunes to me, but that's also a preference thing. That's just, I like that. So it definitely not as like a knock on the game. It's just personal taste. There's also something that's not, I think, a personal taste thing though, is the difficulty spikes. That's something that kind of bothers me. So like. Basically, Jet Stingray stage, I don't like. And again, that one's partly maybe a personal taste thing too, a little bit. Because I guess it's not that hard, you just have to play it a few times. But when you're playing a platformer, a run and gun thing, playing an auto-scrolling thing when you're in a vehicle for both sections of the stage is not very fun. Because it's not like the rest of the game. That's why people don't like underwater stages in a lot of games, because it's different mechanics than the rest of the game is. It's just not rewarding and fun to do that. So I just found myself annoyed and wanted that to be over with. That, I think Magma Dragoon is a thing to bring up where okay, so the ride armors are in this game and they're lame. They're very lame. You can get them, but you rarely need them. They just kind of feel slow and clunky most of the time. So the only time I really used one was for Magma Dragoon, who was laughably easy if you get to the boss fight with the with the ride armor. You can do most of his health down with that and then probably beat him. However, if you don't have it, then he's really goddamn hard. So it's weird there's not really much of an in-between for that. That's a little bit frustrating. He's pretty nuts. The other thing is that the end of the game, they ramp up the difficulty crazily, I think. It's not, maybe not crazily, but it's a pretty big hop. You do the final Sigma battle, and it's 3 stages. The first stage is a joke. The second stage is tough. I think if you're a decent player, meaning better than me, you could probably beat it reasonably well without taking too much damage. But the third phase is just really hard, even for good players, and it's just so much harder than anything else in the game. That it just spikes at the end there. Now, there was no way I was going to be able to get good enough to beat it unless I played it as the only game I've ever play again in my life for years, and then maybe I'll get good enough. But I feel like I pretty much hit a skill ceiling, a skill limit. And I was like, I can't do it. And so I turned on Rookie Hunter mode, which is something unique to the X collection, and the X Legacy collection. And it basically makes it so that you take less damage and deal more damage. So I did still beat it, but I just beat it like a wiener. So I got to see the ending anyways. Also, I will admit, for Zero's campaign, I beat like maybe 3 or 4 bosses, I think. And then I got stuck, and then I turned it on, and I was able to easily beat the rest of them with Rookie Hunter mode on. And I don't feel bad about that, but I want you guys to know that. So if you're going to want to judge me on that and be like, you didn't really beat it, fair enough. Whatever, I got through it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with saying I didn't beat it really, but I at least saw all of it, and I went through the motions of it. So I get the idea, even if I understand I'm not good enough to do it legitimately. Also, my game glitched. That's the only thing I can really think of, because there's supposed to be that infamous scene with Zero, and he's like, what am I fighting for? You've probably seen that. I didn't get to see that. For some reason, the place where that was going to show didn't show me anything, and I didn't know exactly where it was going to show up, so I beat the whole thing, and it never showed up, and then I had to look on YouTube, and I was like, okay, that didn't play for me for some reason. So maybe it's because I played on a Steam Deck, and it's technically not supported, but everything else works 100%, so I don't know why that one thing wouldn't, but maybe it was just a one-off weird glitch. I didn't get to see it, so that's a bit of a shame, but I YouTubed it, so it's not a big deal. So overall, Mega Man X4 is a game that is probably better than I feel like it is. I understand why a lot of people really like this game. Understandably, a lot of people did play this as their first Mega Man game because they played it on, like, they got a PlayStation and like, oh cool, here's this Mega Man X game, and they played that and they loved it. But it's still legitimately a good game. I think it does a lot of interesting new things, both with, the aesthetics of, like, sound and music and visuals and all that stuff. It raises the bar there in ways that make it interesting. It adds some new flair to the gameplay with a bit of the different things of, like, playing, the new, like, hovering mechanic with X, and, like, the different shots and stuff, and then you get to play Zero and his whole thing. All that stuff kind of adds these little elements into the gameplay that do make it more interesting. And I think they help you move forward. And I also think for people who were playing X3, that were like, that's kind of hard, this game is mean, I think this will be more your speed. You could probably go from X to X2 to X4, and it'll probably be a bit easier on you, other than those more difficult spots, especially the ending. Because like I say, I beat X3. I didn't cheat for that one, but for this one I was like, I needed to kind of cheat. I needed a crutch, we'll put it that way. So I would recommend it if you like X and X2, and I guess if you like X3 also, but even if you didn't care for X3, you thought it was too hard, X4 is a really good one. I would definitely recommend playing it. So overall, I think the Volume 1 of the Mega Man X collection is a very solid choice. They do kind of leave the story open to be like, hey, what I've heard, X5 is kind of like the continuation of this, and kind of tries to wrap a lot of the stuff up more. So that's kind of annoying that it's split between the 2 volumes, but I got them both anyway. So the next one is going to be X5, and we'll see what that's like. And then I hear stuff kind of falls off a bit for 6 and 7, so it'll be kind of a thing. It'll be an interesting experiment to see these things, but I had a good time with it. It was pretty good. I'd recommend playing it, for sure. It was fun. It was cool. And I think, other than, like, it just feels different enough because it's a PS1 game and not a Super Nintendo game, so I'm like, this is where the series went downhill. It's like, I don't think it did. After playing it, I think that's just what I feel, but it's not what it actually is. It's just an aesthetic thing and an audible thing. What do you guys think of Mega Man X4? How do you think it compares to the first three X games? Very interested in that. And what do I have in store for X5? Is it going to be a good time, or am I going to be in trouble? Let me know that too. Also, like, this game brought us Iris, and like, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Iris, cute as fuck. Okay, is excellent. That should be on every game. Should be in and on every game. The cover should be her. Give her own game. In Iris dating sim, or I date Iris. Let's do that. Capcom, that's your next project. I think everyone would really like that, and everyone being me, I would like that.